It's a real talk.
Real estate with Trevor and Brit. So today we're taking a different approach since we've talked quite a bit about specific topics for real estate. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the day in the life, or from a real estate perspective, of some myths that need to be debunked. So today we're just going to talk about 6 topics, a little bit more, but they're a lot shorter.
So everything you need to know about why you need us and why we work so hard for our clients. So a day in the life of a realtor isn't what you think.
What is a day in the life of a realtor? There's no consistency.
I go to Pilates, I get coffee. No, just kidding. We work really hard, guys. There are fluctuations, tons of fluctuations, but at the same token, first thing I do when I get up after dealing with the kids and all this stuff, when I'm coming into the office, I'm hitting the MLS, finding out what's new, what's out there. So we're doing research before you even inquire about buying a home. Before you even say, hey, it's me, and raise your hand and say I want to buy or sell. We're doing the research and learning the product knowledge. I feel like that's something that people don't realize that we have to do every single day as real estate agents. And buyers and sellers are always just thinking we just open doors and get a fat ass check, and that is not the case.
That's not the case.
That is not the case. We do so much. So for me, getting up, checking the MLS, checking on any existing clients, and then trying to generate new business by reaching out, staying in touch, seeing how people are doing, all those things in the morning, and then hopefully, as long as things are going right, I should have appointments in the afternoon, and I'm meeting with prospective buyers and sellers in the afternoons, and then showing houses in the evenings when I can. I do have really strict boundaries, me personally, because I do have a family, I have a husband, I have 2 kids, so I put some boundaries in place so I can make sure I have, if you want to call it work-life balance, I don't really know. I don't really believe in work-life balance. I feel like you gotta give and take. It's never a level playing field at any given time. So that's it for me. It definitely is unpredictable sometimes, depending on the level of business you're doing, right, Trevor?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, what is a schedule? And I say that jokingly because we have to live so much on a schedule, but our schedule has to get changed. Like, it gets blown up every single day. We were talking the other day, we were trying to do XYZ on a Monday, and a Monday's a Monday, and neither of us got diddly squat of what we had going on because other pressing things came more into the fold. For me, it's similar to you, Brittany. It's like, I'll get up, I'll look at the MLS for whatever specific new inventories on the market. I'll reach out to my buyers and send those off. Then I'll go into the lead generation portion of my day. I do a lot of letters, I do social media, what we're doing right now, and a couple other lead generation factors. And then you're right, we go through a portion of the day where we have to schedule showings, whether it's in advance or that day on the fly. So when you get somebody that rings you up and says, hey, can I go look at 123 Main Street at 4 o'clock today, you basically have to rearrange your whole schedule. And if you're not able to figure that out, or that doesn't accommodate into your schedule, you have to ask favors. Hey, Britt, can you show a house for me at 4 o'clock for me?
Right, guys.
Or whatever.
And we start spending money from the time we start working for you. So if we can't make it, and we have colleagues or people in our office that can do it, which our office is super supportive. So if one of us can't do it, then we can always ask somebody else. But asking isn't free.
No.
Especially for the experienced agent.
Yeah, exactly. And then we are our own business owners, essentially. We're all independent contractors. So we still have to do our own marketing and talking, and we do a lot of that end. And then it goes back to our evenings are never, it seems like we work more during the evenings than between 9 and 5, I would say. And it's kind of challenging, but at the same time, you have to be able to be flexible and available to the consumer who wants to see the house. And most of the time they're working from 9 to 5, and we have to be with them to be able to.
Yes, because you do have to have 2 years of employment, whether self or W-2, in order to qualify for a house. So we know that you guys are working. So we have to work on the outside hours of you guys. And then there's a ton of paperwork that goes into these deals. And again, people just think we open doors and then we sell houses. Like paperwork, thankfully I've gotten to a point in my business where I can have a transaction coordinator who handles all that. But it's a lot, because sometimes she goes on vacation and I have to do it. And I'm like, she's OP. from purchase agreements to addendums to final water reads to appraisal reports to reading a 50-page inspection report. We have to go through those. I go through it. I'm sure Trevor does too. I go through that before I even talk to my buyer. So I go through it run with a fine-tooth comb. I call the inspector. Hey, what's this? Can you tell me a little bit more about this? What should I do? All the questions. And then I go to my buyer and do the same thing over again and have to explain and elaborate on what's going on in the inspection report. That's 50 pages. Just that alone can take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. Just that small piece.
I wish my inspection reports were 50 pages. Mine are 120
See, that's what I'm saying.
or more. A lot of people, and especially since the consumer has so many different resources to be able to find houses that we might not be able to see right off the cuff. And then the misconception is that, we just open up a door. That's really true.
We turn on lights too.
We turn on lights and open windows, right? But beyond that, where would you be if you just needed to get the door open? We have a very thorough and especially very buyer prolific contract that we have. I think all in all, what we have to submit is collectively 25 pages.
And we just got more.
Yes, we just got another one today.
Mm-hmm.
We got a new one today.
But that's to protect you guys. Honestly, again, I don't shame anybody for trying to do for sale by owner or anything like that. To each his own at the end of the day. But it's so much more than just putting a sign in the yard and holding an open house, if you even do that for a sale by owner. But at any rate, there's all the paperwork, and then the phone conversations we have with these agents on the buy side and the list side, having to call and ensure that before I go into a house, hey, tell me a little bit about the house. What is the seller like? What are they looking for? Those types of questions that we have prior to even opening the door. As a good agent, those are the questions, those are the things that we do. So just that.
The relationship, the negotiation. Once you're under contract, you have to be able to read and understand what's going on in the title commitment. If there's an easement that wasn't disclosed in the original listing ticket, you have to be able to read that, or at least have a great title company and resource to be able to explain to you that what is this easement, or what is clouding the title right now that needs to be clarified before you are able to buy the house. Because when you buy a house, you have to have a clear title. It can't be clouded.
Right. It's got to be clear, guys. It's got to be clear. Like I said, and then that's another stack of papers we got to go through. Because the title company, now granted, if you have great partners, which we do, they will say, hey, there's a flag, or there's a red flag, or whatever. You need to make sure the title's clear. Some title companies don't do that. But even if they do, we still, as agents, have to go through the title work to make sure that everything is good, so that when we get to the closing table, you can get your keys. So we have to go through that decent lease thing.
I always have a title do a pre-title before we list a house.
Always.
So we can rectify any hiccups that we might come across on the front half versus the back half when it's nuts to bolts trying to get a house closed. And the amount of unpaid work and time that we spend on projects on a chance that we're not going to get this offer accepted, or our buyers just kicking the tires and maybe thinking about it. Obviously, you still have to sign buyer's representation to see a house, but if you're not serious, like I've been working with somebody who's going on 3 years and hasn't pulled the trigger once, and the amount of time that I've spent showing houses and expecting to at some point it's like there's always situations as realtors that we're spending all this extra time on the front half before we even get paid.
Right. So that's why we ask for commission. That's why we deserve our commission. I know there was a huge thing with the National Association of Realtors that happened last year. People complaining about our big fat checks that we get, right? But we work hard. Now, granted, it's not what you see on TV. It is real. Those commission checks are real, 100%.
Yeah.
But they work their ass off. A lot of those people that are getting those $150,000 checks, or $100,000, or even $50,000, whatever the case may be, the marketing that goes on the front end to market a listing can be upwards anywhere from $1,500 to start, all the way up to $10,000, $15,000, depending on the price of the property. So you got to remember that we're paying those costs up front to help you sell your house. And so that's why we say, hey, we want to get paid what we deserve, and 3%, I believe, is not a lot. To be quite honest, we do a lot, and I grade it. And I understand. I just had a conversation. It's funny with my mom. She has a house, and she's like, "Well, why do I have to pay 3%?" Or in her case, 6%. When you're a seller, general standard, And remember, all commissions,
Are
compensations,
negotiable.
all compensations are negotiable, so don't be misconstrued by me saying just the general standard and what it's been overall is 6%, and then as a seller, you pay 3% to the buyer's agent and 3% to the selling agent, and that's typically how it goes. But again, it's all negotiable. But people wonder why do we have to pay this much? And so when you break it down, we've got something added to our contract where it goes over everything that we do for you as an agent. And I've had a client say, "Wow, I didn't realize you guys did this much." And I'm kind of happy, especially for our brokers. We're so really down, especially when it comes to presenting things to our clients. And so the fact that we have that and to be able to show, like, this is what we do for you, this is what we're going to do, and then add another layer to that in the rest of the presentation, right? So it's like we do all of these things to help ensure that you get what you want, and then we get paid at the end. And that's you go to work for 40 hours, you expect to get a check. So do we. Same.
We put in a lot more than 40 hours a week to get a commission check. In this scenario or in this live, whatever numbers we put out there, they're all examples. They're not, obviously, again, everything is negotiable. Another thing that is kind of misconstrued is like you get that commission check right off at the end, but you're gotta pay split Uncle Sam, and then you get your commission after that. So it's not right. That big number is going straight to your bank account, because it's not. And Uncle Sam obviously takes 30% off the top, and then you have to pay your splits. And then some brokerages don't have split caps, so you have to keep paying that every deal. Whereas, fortunate enough with Keller Williams Domain, we have a cap. So once we hit that, then but we just have to pay Uncle Sam.
But we still gotta pay. We still have to pay.
We still have
we
to
don't
pay.
get the check that they show you, the $115,000. That's what you get from the top. And then you gotta rip it all down and then you walk away with that. But again, it's worth it. That's why we're realtors. But we just wanted to give you a little bit of detail of what we do as realtors and why we do the things that we do for our clients, right? So the biggest misconceptions that people have as realtors, and I feel like we touched on this a little bit already. We just unlock doors. We've already talked about the fact that there's a reality of not just unlocking doors, contracts, negotiation, problem solving, negotiation, deals falling through, getting you back under contract, getting you pre-approved, connecting you with the right people, and all those things. We don't just open doors, guys. That's not it. So, and we already talked on too, commission myths. Or compensation is what it's called now. Compensation myths. Those are the myths that you think that we get those checks at the end, but we gotta pay taxes, we gotta pay splits, we gotta pay. Sometimes, depending on your partnership, if you got listing photos, you may have to pay those at the end. You may have to pay.
We have other expenses beyond, because we're paying it basically all in the front half. So anything that we do on the front half, we have to recoup our expenses, and then we take that off. Well, I would say anybody would probably take that off before we actually make anything. But,
and again, the prep does not lead to a paycheck for us. We can do as much work as we want to, and we are doing the work because we want to help people get into homes or sell their homes, downsize, whatever the case may be. The prep work that goes into it does not always promise us a paycheck. Prep doesn't promise a paycheck. So keep that in mind when you, because I can't come to your job and ask you for a discount on your services. So please don't come to ours and ask us for a discount.
Yeah, you're not going to go to a doctor and ask for a discount. Well, they might, but you're not going to get it.
You're not going to get it. Only discount you get is insurance. So hopefully you have some good ones. But we talked about biggest misconceptions and then our dating life and what that looks like. So the toughest part of being a realtor that nobody talks about. What do you think? Nobody talks. What do you realtor keep in your back? What are you not saying to us or to the consumer? What are you hiding? Is there anything you're hiding?
For me, it's the toughest part is the constant pulling your hair out, trying to get schedules put together to make the most amount of sense. That I would say that's for me. Like I mean, everything else is kind of like elementary on my end. Or I guess besides the schedulings and stuff like that, making it all work is marketing and
100%.
Because it's so easy to fall into a lull and you have all this work going on that you're working with clients and under contract, inspections, that and the other, and then it's pretty easy to go by the wayside of the lead generation for your next opportunity to help a client.
Right, getting lost in the busy work. So for me, I would say the toughest part about being a real estate agent that nobody talks about is going into the deal, doing all the work, getting it under contract, getting through inspection, getting through the appraisal, getting to the closing table, and it not closing. That is probably, and I just got chills just saying that. I literally got chills just saying that. And I had to realize that early on. One of my good friends told me, no, you can't celebrate until after all the paperwork is signed, everything is done. Because I remember my first deal, I was so excited. And it ended up being a probate deal. So we got it under contract. It was super easy. I was like, oh shoot, if I can do this one time, I can keep doing this. Got the deal under contract in May. I didn't close till October because it was probate. So I was so excited. Then the day kept moving. It was so many little pieces. Now it did end up closing, thankfully, but also getting to a point where you get everything under contract, everything's done, and then the buyer says, I don't want it. Or the seller says, no, I don't. Now, there are stipulations, there are things that aren't money deposits that get lost due to people pulling out of deals last minute. But a lot of times, if you don't have a written contract with some people, you don't get any money if your buyer pulls out or if your seller pulls out. You're just asked out. And now you've spent upwards of $1,000, $15,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, who knows, depending on the price of the house, what you're spending on the front end for the deal to not close. And then you got to do the process all over again. My stomach literally dropped the first time a buyer said to me, I didn't want the property, and we had went through all of it. It was the worst feeling in the world, but I had to realize that if I wanted to stay in this game, I had to understand that that's going to happen, and to always keep the next deal rolling. Keep in mind, keeping the next deal rolling, because it's going to happen. And it sucks, but I feel like people don't realize how often that does happen in some cases. Whether it's because the buyer did something stupid at the end, or the seller decided, hey, I don't want to sell it. No, grandma said I can't. It's in probate, and the probate case lasts 2 years, and you're thinking that you're about to get a check, and it doesn't happen. So remember, for Trevor and I know both of us have other streams of income, but at the same token, we're priority first full-time real estate agents. Right. So that is how we pay our bills. That is how we do our things. So if deals don't fall through, then we're asked out. And so people don't talk about that.
I've had 3 deals that have taken over a year to close, and I had one that took 7 months. And there was a lawsuit involved with the 3, but I at times was like questioning, is this ever going to close? Or what are the next steps beyond this? It's like, there are definitely situations that we go through as realtors that's not any control of ours, but we do the best we can to get our clients put in the best situation.
Right.
But again, deals fall apart all the time, unfortunately. Knock on wood. I haven't had any of that happen to me yet. I know it's gonna eventually come down the pipeline because that's just the name of the game in real estate, but it is scary to think about.
It can happen, yeah. If you're on this live, I know you guys are feeling that emotion, right? Are you feeling that big turmoil, the not having stability? That's how we feel in day to day. So we have to know how to balance our emotions so that we don't overwhelm our client. So the emotional roller coaster, managing stress.
Real. It is so real.
And then having not only to manage your own personal stress, but having to manage the stress of your clients, because we're not the only ones going through just because we're not getting paid, but you got to think about the back end of the client and their emotions and how they're tied to the houses and how their money is invested and how things fall through. It doesn't just fall through for us, it falls through for our clients too. Now granted, sometimes the client can decide, no, I don't want to, I'm going to keep it, but at the end of the day, it falls through for both parties.
We deal with a lot of various different roller coasters, and we wear a lot of hats. I feel like we're psychologists, therapists,
I've had clients and
babysitters.
Right on my shoulder. I'm here for it though. I love it.
Contract. Yeah. We wear a lot of different hats, so it is definitely an emotional roller coaster. We do definitely need to keep our emotions in check because we are the professionals. We've been through these scenarios to try to help guide, and ultimately our biggest job is to guide you through the process to get you from start to finish and in your dream house, your next dream house.
And so that's emotions are heavy, right? So let's get to a little bit lighter. Let's get to a little something fun, right? So the funniest or the weirdest things. I got one, and I've been waiting for this since me and Trevor were talking about this. So it's not funny, but it is funny because the house. So I went to a house, and I wish I had the picture. And if you guys watch our YouTube, I'll plug the picture into this part of the video so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So it was in the middle of winter. We're here in Michigan, and a pipe. So I went to go tour house. House was really nice. I was like, oh, this is a perfect house for my investor, perfect price range, didn't have too much work to do. Go in for the final walkthrough, a pipe burst. This is why you do final walkthroughs, buyers and sellers, or buyers for sure. This is why you do final walkthroughs, because you want to make sure that you're buying in the same condition. A pipe burst. So what happened, because we're in a dead middle of winter, and in the area where my investors purchased, they don't keep the hot water tank and furnace in the house. So it was dead winter. So they had winterized, well, at least they thought they winterized the property. And
Wait, they didn't have the hot water tank and
No.
the furnace inside the house?
No, it's an investment property. When you buy in Detroit, that's the first thing they take. Is the hot water tank and furnace, because it's the most priciest item. So that is a high theft item when you have investment property in Detroit. So went in there, and the whole bathroom was covered in ice. I'm gonna plug this picture in. It was covered in ice. The toilet was covered in ice. The floor was covered in ice. It was like an ice skating rink in the bathroom. It was the craziest thing. I had never seen anything like it. It was hilarious. The whole bathroom was an ice sheet. I'm gonna plug it in here so you guys can see it. You guys can laugh. And believe me when I say. Now, thankfully enough, the sellers did rectify the issue, and we closed on the house, so that was great. But again, it was a freezer in the bathroom. So that's funny, weird, crazy. I got another one, but Trevor, I've been in some crazy houses because I'm heavy on the investor side. So I see a lot of shit, literally. That's my next story.
It's really interesting to see some of the DIY projects that people are doing. And I had one that basically I went down in the basement. I can't remember which city it was like Warren, St. Clair. And go down in the basement, and they literally straight up just put pipe down, just chilling in the middle of the basement, because that's where the drain was, and they had pipes and a fixture, and they didn't have any drywall, nothing. It was just spraying down. I was like, wow, that's quite interesting. John Maya always does a lot of interesting ones, but you just think sometimes with the amount of houses that we look at, some odd things that don't really come to mind because we see so many, but that's one that like is head scratching to me. I'm sure I could think of a lot more, but that's like the quickest one that comes to the top of my mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you with one more weird. I don't know if it's low key nasty. I'm not gonna with you up. The shoes that I wore from that day are still outside in the garage. I walked into a potential fix and flip for an investor client, again in the city of Detroit. Great location, beautiful flip. There's people coming in and out of the house. Went in there, go to walk up. So you get in from the side door, you walk up the stairs into the kitchen, and the entire house is full of mice feces. Whole house, all over the floor. There was nowhere you could step that you wouldn't. So in my case, my clients are not here in Michigan, so I have to see this house. I have to take pictures. I got to do all the things. So I got to walk through this house with all this shit on the floor, literally, and take pictures. And I got to the stairs in the basement. I wasn't even going down there because I didn't know what was going to run across the floor. Something was in there, for sure, obviously, but it was all over. So that's nasty. Again, the shoes are still outside. Still, I sprayed them down with microban. I sprayed my car down with microban. I would bleach everything. But yeah, we see some wild stuff out here in these real estate streets. So again, don't take it for granted what we do for our clients.
It's always the most obscure, random thing you would think wouldn't be in something or in a particular area of the house.
So much.
And the layouts. It's always the layouts are just really intriguing. Oh, why is there a dishwasher with your washer dryer? I have seen that. That was interesting.
Or I think I had a friend of mine walked into the living room of the house, and the refrigerator was sitting right there.
Oh, I have one. So a house that I was actually looking at to buy for myself for my primary residence. This was in Troy, and it's like this 1920s house. It was nicely redone. The floors were all pitched in the main area, but you go up to the second floor. It's literally 18 inches wide, and you're going up to the finished bungalow portion. And I literally I had 2 inches, and I'm only 5'8", so I had 2 inches of clearance to walk straight up. And then on top of that, I go to look at one of the bedrooms, and they had a full regular 6'8" door, and they chopped it to like 4 feet 5 inches, and it looks so shoddy. It's like, oh my goodness, people. And like that one was an interesting one.
Yeah.
It was an immediate no, but
So we do have fun.
we find some really interesting houses.
Yes.
That's for sure.
We do have fun. We see some of the wildest things.
We have to laugh about it
Yes,
sometimes.
100%.
You just have to. Otherwise, it just lightens it up for
Yes.
our career path.
Take from serious to not so serious, and then we take it into relationships, right?
Mhm.
Why do relationships matter for us more than transactions? We can only speak for ourselves in
Right.
this instance because we both obviously are real estate agents, and you know some agents are transactional,
Mhm.
and like I said, to each his own. Do
Yeah.
your thing.
Yeah.
But for us, it's relationships. We are building relationships. We're having conversations, not just about how I'm learning about you, about your life, and why that matters so much. Why do we think, or why, you know, as realtors, why do we think that because relationships last. Transactions end at the closing table. Relationships follow you through your journeys, follow you through having kids, through divorces, through pets dying, parents dying, all those things. That's what a relationship does. It's not just a transaction for us. It really speaks to who we are as a person and how we handle things with care. Because when you have a relationship with a person, I feel like you have loyalty, you have morals, you have standards, and just all of the things that come with a relationship, trust, everything, empathy, all those things come with a relationship. With a transaction, it's just sign the paper here, get the check here. Thank you so much. And we don't do that.
We like to nurture and stay in contact after a closing, whether it's the buy side or the sell side, and it is so relationship driven. Especially when you're in the buying process, you really do truly become good friends with the buyers, and that carries over. You know, you help them from a state of unknown to a state of this is where they call home. And it is really nice to see the transformation from start to finish. And then also, most of the time, they buy a house and they're having a baby, or your families grow. And it's great to see from our perspective, families grow and just different aspects of life in general, and relationships are relationships. And I would say that we pride ourselves, especially in Keller Williams domains, making sure that we build strong relationships with our clients so that we continue to see each other. And anytime we hear from a realtor, it's not because it's transactional. We want to genuinely, reach out and talk to you and check in and make sure. Yes, is there a roundabout way? We want to stay top of mind. Sure, yeah, but after you do a transaction, it's more of a staying in touch and trying to stay involved in your life.
Right. And for those real estate agents that are out there listening, what happens when you build those relationships, they return. It may not be immediate, but a referral down the line, or when they're getting ready to sell, they remember you. When you stay in touch and you care about them and what's going on with them outside of the transaction, they know you feel it. So obviously you can't be disingenuous. People know fake. So
Care on your people.
100%. So what makes a great realtor different than just an okay one?
Negotiating. Your negotiating skills and how much you're able to advocate for your client, to be able to talk to the agent on the other end to get a deal put together.
Right.
There are so many still in Metro Detroit. The market is still very, very hot, and you'll have multiple offers. So again, and I've said this a couple weeks ago, relationships matter, and good, strong deal offer, laying it all out, get you deals more often than not. And you can advocate for your clients with that other agent, because one way or another, once they feel you out from the other side, from an agent's perspective, they will help. That will be a big determining factor also, beyond just the deals. So it matters how agents present themselves to of your clients, but also themselves, to know that they feel comfortable enough that this deal's gonna close.
And knowledge is power. I live by that.
Oh, yeah.
That has been ingrained in me probably since I was a little girl. So I am a learner at heart. I think that the more you know, the better. You can serve your clients. That's what sets a lot of agents apart from other agents. Because if you can ask your agent questions and they have no idea about the basic stuff of what's going on in the neighborhood you're looking, or where, they should have done their research. Like we said, we do our research before we even step foot in the house to know what's happening in the market, what other houses are on sale, all the things. like knowledge is power, and if you don't have any knowledge, how can your agent trust you if you don't know, right? So that's what I feel like for me is something that I pride myself on educating. I pride myself on reading and knowing and looking and taking, continuing education classes and understanding the laws and rules and regs and all this stuff, because it's ever changing. This is an industry that is ever changing. So as an agent, you have to stay on top of your stuff, because if you don't, you'll fall out of the playing field real quick.
Hey Brittany, did you know that how our market is going? Our valuations are going up 8.1%.
Yeah.
A little plug from our team meeting that we learned about today. So
they're going up.
They're going up.
The value of house.
And your appreciation is still going up too. So there's a little bit of knowledge plug from what we learned today.
And that's the good thing when you hire an agent from Domain. We pride ourselves on knowing what's happening in our market. When we have our team meetings, they go over market knowledge every other week, or every first and third, I guess. But then I feel like this every other week. They say it's not, but it is.
It is.
So when they do that, that empowers us as agents. Now, what we do with the information is totally different.
Right.
But you see how we just let y'all know some information that you probably didn't know. Because in the history is showing itself, we're still at a level for those interest rates that you guys think are so goddamn high.
Yeah.
They're not, guys. They're not.
Also, here's another plug that we learned from one of our lenders, that we're actually going to have a lender come in next week and talk. So plug for next week. But anticipate 2 rate cuts, but those rate cuts are probably going to be baked into the current rate that you see on whatever, marketreport.com or whatever site you're seeing. Those rates will be baked into those rates. So even if the Fed's going to lower rates by 2, it's probably already baked in, because it's always in arrears when the rates actually hit. But they forecast it so hard. So another plug.
See, and that's what we got, and that's the knowledge of power. And I think that, like I said, we've talked so much about and letting you get the inside scoop on us as real estate agents. We love to hear from you guys. If you guys got comments or questions that you guys need answered or want answered next week, please feel free. We will have a mortgage banker on live with us next week. So make sure you tune in, because he'll be answering all the questions. We'll have a gamut of questions. If you have any questions that you want answered in regards to mortgages or how you pay, what
feel
you
free
pay,
to DM us on the front half so we
Yes.
can print those out and have questions ready to ask Dylan.
So make sure you stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate you so much. As always, this is our 8th week. We're going strong. Make sure you check out the YouTube page, Real Talk Real Estate with Trevor and Brit. That's me. I'm Brittany. But make sure you check us out on YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. We'll post the link. The link will be in my bio in about an hour. So yeah, hit us up. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week.
See ya.